All right, after failing twice the past couple of weeks, Democrats in the Arizona House of Representatives just hours ago passed a bill to repeal Arizona's law protecting life that the state Supreme Court really just affirmed earlier this month. Now, the final vote was 32 to 29, with 3 Republicans crossing over to join with the Democrats on this repeal effort. The legislation, as I understand now, heads to the Arizona Senate, where it could be heard as early as next week. Joining me now to discuss this is the Arizona House Speaker, Ben Toma. He represents the 27th District of Arizona, and he has stood firm for the unborn there in Arizona. Speaker Toma, welcome to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you.
So tell us about today's events in the Arizona House of Representatives. This has been 3 weeks running, and it finally happened today with 3 Republicans crossing over to join with the Democrats. A lot of national pressure on the Arizona House to do this?
There was a lot of pressure to do this, and quite frankly, as I said on my floor speeches multiple times on this, you know, I'm 100% pro-life. I believe that firmly. I believe that it is that we're all made in God's image, and as such that all life should be protected. And so I did stand against what ended up happening today. And it's been now, this is the third iteration of this. And finally, as you said, there were a couple of Republicans that sided with the Democrats on a procedural motion to force it to the floor. And then when the bill came up, it ended up being 3 Republicans that voted with the Democrats to repeal the original law, which they keep calling the territorial law, but really it was actually renewed and signed into law again in 1977, interestingly by a Democrat governor at that point. But what's really going on here in Arizona is we're trying to defeat a ballot initiative that effectively would allow abortion all the way through 9 months. I mean, technically they say it's a 24-week abortion ban, but really there's so many exceptions, including the mental health of the mother, which is so broad you can drive a bus through it, and would allow god-awful things like a partial birth abortion, which is just unconscionable. And we as Republicans absolutely need to stand together and make sure that whatever else happens, that does not pass in November.
So does the 15-week bill that was signed into law back in 2022, does that stay in effect, or is that repealed by this too?
No, that's a great question. That bill would stay in effect. So at this point, the law of the land, once this passes, if it passes, I should say, at the Senate, through the Senate, then presumably the governor would sign it because the Democrats have been calling for it. And once session is over, our process is that 90 days after session is over, our laws become effective. Then what it would default to would be the 15-week abortion law, which is what was decided by the Supreme Court, or just a little over 2 weeks ago.
So, Speaker, how do you make sure that the state stays pro-life this fall? We see this across the country, a lot of money being spent to confuse, to mislead on this issue. Are you concerned about that in Arizona?
Of course, anybody that's concerned about life should be concerned about that here in Arizona. Again, what they're trying to do, the Planned Parenthood pushed initiative, is what they're calling a 24-week. But as I said before, it really would allow abortions in almost any circumstances, and including, I'm stressed out that there's a pregnancy, and so therefore they would allow that to allow that abortion to happen all the way through the 3rd trimester, and in theory all the way to a partial birth, which, as I said, is unconscionable. So I am concerned about that. Look, the truth of the matter is, after what's happened here and what is, let's assume for a moment, happens in the Senate, then the law of the land will be 15 weeks. And so we as Republicans need to get unified on this issue, and not just Republicans, anyone that's pro-life. And I know there are Democrats that are pro-life, or at least in theory there are, and I know a lot of independents here in Arizona are pro-life, and say, look, enough is enough. That their abortion initiative goes way too far. It prevents it, and it does things like, for example, parents don't have a right to know that their underage children are getting an abortion, which is just, again, wrong on all kinds of levels. And so we need to stop that from happening. We need to put our disagreements behind us on what is reasonable and what isn't. We can all agree that what they're trying to do is unreasonable and immoral, and so therefore needs to be stopped.
And would this, last question for you, Speaker Toma, would this take it out of the hands of the legislature to be able to deal with this in the future?
And that's exactly the problem with some of these voter initiatives here in Arizona. Unfortunately, anything that's passed by the voters is protected, and it would require a 3/4 majority of the legislature to change it. And not only that, but it would also require it to further the cause. So in theory, if and when that were to pass, there's no way to undo it. And so that's another reason why we cannot allow it to happen. And even some of the prescriptions, for example, to get an abortion, and under their law, it's not even it doesn't even have to be a medical doctor that does it. It could be something as ridiculous as a dentist or a chiropractor, which again is another reason why the Democrats have been very clear about this. They want abortion on demand without restrictions, and we cannot allow that to happen.
Speaker Toma, I want to thank you, commend you for standing firm for life, and we're going to continue to track this, and we'll be helping as much as we can in Arizona.